All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first installment in our new career series that escalated quickly. My name is Charlotte Wilner, and I am Executive Director here at the Trust and Safety Professional Association, or TSPA. TSPA is a nonprofit supporting the global community of people working in online trust and safety. We work alongside trust and safety teams to develop expertise and skills and the relationships they really need to navigate this very unique profession, as you will hear in a moment. TSPA is really a forum for these professionals to connect with a network of their peers, to exchange ideas on the work of trust and safety and how it should be done, and really find guidance on how to think about their own career. I've been working in trust and safety for about 15 years. I started at Facebook in 2007, and then I was at Pinterest starting in 2013, working all through there on trust and safety issues. Finally came here to TSPA in late 2020. And a big part of my job now is talking with folks who are trying to figure out their next steps in the field. Maybe they've been in trust and safety for a couple of years and they're starting to wonder, well, what's next? Or maybe they're thinking about getting into trust and safety, but they aren't sure what a career in the field really looks like. I get asked a lot about how I prepared for my own career path. And the truthful answer is a lot of the choices that I made in life that felt super random along the way actually really prepared me well for my ultimate career in trust and safety. And that's true for a lot of people, maybe even most people in trust and safety today. There's no one ideal degree or internship or job change or title that really prepares you for success in this field. It's really more about what you learn from your own life experiences and how you learn from the people around you in your community. So the goal of this series is to introduce you to people within our community, within TSPA, who never necessarily thought they'd end up where they are today, but here they are. And they'll be talking about their career journeys, the choices that they made along the way that ultimately landed them where they are now. They'll be reflecting on the responsibilities that trust and safety professionals carry and give some advice to folks who are thinking about their own career paths in the field, whether they're starting out from day one or they've been in the field a long time and just want to hear from other folks who are in it and who are having that journey. Very importantly, we're probably going to hear some pretty funny stories, so I'm looking forward to that part. I would love to introduce you today to our two conversants. We have Dona Bellow, who is an advisor to TSPA, and we have Michelle Feuer, who is our guest for this very first series and our or installment in the series. So Dona, I'm going to turn it over to you. Let's hear about how things have escalated.
Yeah, great. Hi, everyone. So as Charlotte said, I'm Dona Bellow. I've been doing trust and safety work for, I think, a little over 8 years now. And I've been fortunate enough to work at a variety of companies from Google to Airbnb to Meta and now at a startup. But what that means is that I really got the opportunity to meet and get to know a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. And that's why I'm super stoked about this series and being able to host because we get to go into like the origin stories and behind the scenes of like these people's lives. So today we're sitting down with Michelle and she's going to fully introduce herself in a minute. But what's super special about Michelle is that, and I'm going to simplify a bit here, but she started in TV in the news studios and made her way to trust and safety. And I mean, some of us, I'm not going to say any names, may or may not be interested in reverse engineering this career path from trust and safety to TV. So Michelle, why don't you tell us a little bit about this transition? What made you want to jump into trust and safety? And also a little bit about what you do now. Go ahead.
I'm going to preface everything by saying that, so for a quarter of a century, I worked in television, starting as an intern and working my way up. And I had the great joy of working with actual on-air. I was always behind the scenes. That excited me, right? And I had the joy of working with on-air correspondents that at the network level. And they were truly genuine and intelligent and thoughtful and did their work, right? Because if they were just talking heads, forget it. I couldn't do it. And Dona, I have to tell you, it became very clear to me. I can recognize on-air talent in a second, the star quality. Dona, I think we're going to use this as your reel, right, everyone? Because you have it. So yes, we can just say this is your.
Like I said, may or may not be interested. We'll see.
So the quick summary, I think I'm currently, I'll start with what I am now. I'm currently, since 2019, I've been with end of 2018, but officially became director of trust and safety at Zeal, which is we're a medical network. We have physical therapists, nurses, massage therapists, and they go into people's homes. And we did the vaccination program with the New York City Department of Health. So I'm director of trust and safety of that. And as I like to say, it was going from television, where I was with NBC and CBS, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second, but going from, these, and then a private investigation agency, which we'll talk about. It was kind of, I went from television, and then that naturally morphed into becoming a private investigator because I wanted more access to databases and information. And so, but that was an agency that was pretty doctored in because, our head of our agency had worked with the Kennedys and Yoko Ono, and that's public information. I'm not giving any client secrets. But yes, so it was going from that to then suddenly people touching people in space, in homes. And then you add in the global pandemic. And so it's almost as crazy as agreeing to do this first session and be the guinea pigs, right, Dona?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so I'm very curious to better understand. Okay, so you said from TV to private investigator to trust and safety. Like, what made you want to jump into these different careers? And did you see trust and safety as something that you wanted to get into, or did you have no idea? Did you just fall into it like a lot of us?
I think that, like all of us probably on this call, we have a certain level of instincts and intelligence, right? That we trust and we go with. And here is the thing. I didn't know it at the time, like Charlotte said at the beginning. I realized that, so one of my first jobs as an intern at NBC London this was the job. I literally had to sit. I was an original, and I didn't know it at the time. I was an original content reviewer because my job was to log all of the Eurovision, our Eurovision feeds.
Yeah.
They would come in from all over the world into this feed. And I would have to review for content, and I'd have to summarize what was in the feeds and then make suggestions to this incredible producer, Brian Donald. And I would have to, and this was the old school London newsroom. Like, keep in mind, this was like this was like the 90s, right? So it was, you could, at that point, for a brief period when I was an intern, you could smoke in the newsroom, you could drink in the news, like, they would order beers after the newscast. It was a real foreign newsroom, and they were going out and they were covering stories. Like, actually the whole team would go, it wasn't just feeds. And so I would review this content and I would have to make suggestions, but I didn't know it at the time. And I saw some of the most insane things that I can still picture in my head. I mean, they would literally show, just, can I say it in a trust and safety call, Dona?
I mean, trust and safety.
No, there were some nasty things. Everything from like Happy, the Eurovision contest, to beheadings, right? So I didn't know it at the time, but it was original review. And then foreign news I realized kind of, as you go through, your whole life would be, it's very specific, the kind of people that are able to withstand covering foreign news out in the field and live that life. And so I was kind of like hearkened back to New York. And in New York, there was a lot of crime coverage at the time. It was and at that time you could really kind of be embedded with certain departments. And so with NBC, when I transferred over from NBC, I had this incredible opportunity to embed and be with the Bronx NYPD unit this very specific specialized homicide unit and follow them every single day. And their advice was, put your hands in your pockets, don't move, don't say a word. And that's what I did. And I worked, I don't know, 6, probably just constantly following. And it was like an original embed of, and it wasn't day of, we would work on, you know, longer term pieces with them. And I embedded with the Coast Guard and other sorts of groups. And it really was this more detailed, more thoughtful, more intense sort of work. And it gave me these contacts, but watching these people who were lawyers and doctors, and I mean, I followed emergency ambulance people in New Orleans, right? For living their lives with them and watching them work from all stages. And that gave me such a perspective and such a skill set just from watching. And then, so that was kind of the media piece.
Wow, that's fascinating. Like, and you got to see also like experience a lot of different issues, right? Like in different situations. And I feel like similarly to what we have to do, like in this space as well. So yeah, that's really
right.
cool.
It ran the gamut. It ran the gamut, and you met every single different kind of person with every different personality. And some of them were in crises, you know, they were at the worst day of their lives. And others were, you know, saved from these crazy, perilous moments. But yes. And then I just loved that life and loved sharing like we do, you know, maybe there's always an element of helping others, like whether it be to tell a truth that needs to be told or get someone's story out, right? There's an element of something larger than yourself and sharing it and helping others. That always, right, transition through. And then I think from that, CBS hired me this incredible person named Susan Zorinsky, known as Z. And she hired me for CBS News. And we really did crime shows, like in depth. And you would cover something from the time a murder happened. Oh, I forgot to silence my phone. From the time a murder happened through the trial. So you would go to the pre-trials, which you sometimes, you know, so you would have access to the murder you know, a lot of information pre, and then through the trial. So you could really learn the criminal justice system. And then I realized, oh, private investigation, fascinating. And then that's how the private investigation part came in. So it was just following what you love, what's meaningful to you, and not even overthinking it. Just how can you be better at your job, and how can you expand, and how can you keep yourself challenged, right? Isn't that what life is?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, because I feel like that's also been a theme for me, just like and I did not do like as many cool stuff as you did, but but yeah, you know, trying to move through my career and really asking myself, okay, what do I want to learn next? Like, where do I want to invest my time next? So that's really cool that you mentioned that. And I think also the fact that, you know, yeah, I think a lot like doing this work, like I remember when I was focusing on like child safety, for example, like it was effectively about the bigger picture and not just like my work, but like how could I have an impact on like a real person's life, you know, possibly. So I think like hopefully a lot of this like resonates with a lot of people. So okay, so you've got this like very interesting experience. So now what do you do at Zeal, and how do you leverage like some skills and lessons from your background to do this work day to day?
It's funny because that's how it started. So I was asked by someone who invests in companies and has some companies to look at, it was very circumstance based. So I started just getting calls, you know, because these wonderful, experienced attorneys and people were like, we don't have a protocol for that. We don't have a protocol for that. So that was sort of how it began. We had to think, oh, well, this is a unique situation. There is no protocol for this in this new world that we call trust and safety. I never even heard of this term trust and safety until quite recently, like when I started getting these calls, because it was about the trust and the safety together, right?
Right.
And that's how, like, so at Zeal, it's about creating escalations and policies where you're putting on all of those different hats, right? How do you keep a provider safe? How do you keep a patient or client as safe as possible? And then if something that you can't prepare for happens, how do you react? And you're thinking with all of those different hats that you've been able to see previously in your career, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know that makes a lot of sense. And I guess I'm trying to like reverse this question a little bit, because obviously like a lot of people know that trust and safety work is difficult. Like I have people all the time, like within my company saying, oh, I definitely couldn't do this work. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm here to do this work. And so there's definitely like this perception that the work is difficult. And also imagine that like you dealt with like much more difficult situations, like working as a PI and like alongside government authorities. And so what challenges do you see are very specific to trust and safety work though, in thinking about, you know, against the experience that you have, and how also like do you navigate those as someone who, you know, stepped into this field?
It's so true. They say, I couldn't do it. You don't they say that all the time to
Yes.
people? And you just say, well, I couldn't do what you do either. But that's the beauty of it, right? It's the collaboration of doing, you know, it's true. If you do right by the person, right? You're doing right by the brand, but you're doing, you know, if you keep all of those things together, it's that, am I acting correctly? Am I thinking through this problem in a fair way? Right? I think it's about, I don't know, ask me again, because I don't feel like I'm answering your question. Everyone else chat in with your answer now. Answer it for us.
So I was saying, like, do you feel like there are challenges that are specific to trust and safety, and maybe some stuff that you didn't expect, right? Like coming into this job, what are some specific challenges that you just didn't expect having to deal with, especially as someone who's dealt with like really hard stuff before as well?
I was surprised at how just when you're dealing with people, just how sometimes the situations that can occur that are just, and it's hard, like we were saying before the call, you know, we're also private in trust and safety about specific cases and case escalations, but it's like even the little things like what animals can do inside houses, right? Like these little crazy situations where you combine animals and people.
Yeah.
Or, you know, yes, like just that it is like in news, sometimes something happens and you react to it, right? And so, yes, in trust and safety, you prepare. And what I didn't know is from having seen all of these different scenarios and how they can all go, it helps you in your trust and safety work a lot.
Yeah.
So whatever it is that you do, your skills will apply to trust and safety, I can assure you.
Yeah, and that's how I guess we all ended up in this field. I just wanted to pull a question from the chat. Like somebody was asking, as a PI, did you have a specific focus or did you work on like a variety of cases? Because like detective experience is also important in trust and safety. And so, yeah, that's the question.
So I never did those sorts of cases like that you see on these shows, like you're following some crazy spouse situation, you know, none of those. I always we always work at the agency, like through attorneys and work very specifically aligned with the law. That keeps you out of trouble in life in general, right?
Yes.
And I agree with whoever SW is. Yes, I agree with SW because it's true. If there happens to be an alleged victim, yes, it is when you have to speak to someone who's, you don't know if they're telling the truth or not, but it's not your job necessarily as an investigator to decide that, right? I'm not a legal law enforcement investigator. I'm finding out that person's truth, their perspective as they see it, and making sure that that is given correctly to the attorneys, right? But yes, getting them to open up and getting them to feel safe and comfortable and supported in the telling of their truth, that's part of it, right? Does that answer the question? And yes, so most of the cases that we had worked on were criminal in nature. Yes. And a lot of also sentencing memorandums, like, you know, as the judge goes forth and decides what the sentence will be, it's gathering, even if someone's been found guilty, it's working on that as well. That was some of the work we did. And then we did some death penalty cases as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's like a lot of like very
appeals, like death penalty appeals. Yes.
I love the fact that you mentioned like this idea of like working directly with people and being able to like translate their, you know, their experience, because like I feel like in trust and safety, obviously, like we work in the interest of the users, but we don't have access to those people, right? Like, so it's about also our interpretation of like situations that we see, whether it's like the content or whether it is like, you know, a real life situation that we have to interpret to do this work. So there's definitely like a, you know, you got to be with the people directly and be able to translate that experience back to someone. And we have to do some of this like guesswork, I guess, when you work in trust and safety, because you don't have like that direct contact. So I wasn't making a specific point about this, just making an observation.
No, but it's true, because also when you're dealing with sometimes the phone versus being in person, right? It's a whole different world, being able to look at someone in the eyes versus just hearing their voice on the phone, right? Hearing the voice on the phone.
So someone asked, like, maybe very quickly, what does your day-to-day look like at Zeal?
They're always, you know, so a lot of it's working on, that's an impossible question, actually, the day-to-day.
Changes every day,
need like
right?
another hour. But, you know, our trust and safety team deals a lot with, you know, we have to medically credential, we have to make sure that we're meeting the standards. We have to make sure that we're coordinating very closely with support, right? Like we all do in trust and safety for that sort of a company, making sure that the support teams are aligned with the protocols that are in place. But no day is ever the same, which is fantastic, right?
Yeah, that's the fun of it. So how do you explain your job to your family and friends who most likely have no idea about what trust and safety means?
Isn't that funny? Because you know, when you're at a dinner party or a cocktail party or some sort of get together, and at first you don't necessarily talk about work because you're trying to talk about all your other things, but then inevitably it ends up getting, oh, what do you do? So when I used to say TV, they'd ask me all these questions about an ongoing case and what I knew, or did I meet that defendant? What do I think? Is Casey Anthony guilty or innocent? Now I say trust and safety, and they just go, no. I think I say we try to keep users of a platform, users of networks safe. That's the way I think that it's a good, safe way to explain it, which is true. We try to keep people safe.
Yeah. That's a good like umbrella description. And that doesn't invite like too many questions. Man, I wish we had like so much more time for this because I'm having fun.
So we can turn the tables on you, Dona.
Not yet. So I'm curious to know, what advice would you give to people who are thinking about getting into trust and safety? So based on all the things that you've done so far, what you've learned about the field and where you are, like what?
Stella asked a great question. So she wants to pivot her career into TNS, right? this is what I've learned. I work with and I'm not just saying this because this is recorded and it will exist for perpetuity. I'm saying it because I mean it. Find the people that will support you. Find the people that can think outside of the box and understand your skills. Find them and stick with them and be in a supportive work environment that's collaborative, right? It's a matter of finding those people that aren't just going check, and they're willing to think outside of the box. And as someone said to me, you don't need to be super brave when you're qualified. And it's true. Be qualified, so you don't need to be super brave. And that's how it will work for you. And don't give up and follow your instincts and your intelligence. Stella.
Yeah, I love this question, Stella. And just to like piggyback on what Michelle just said, I think also like ask yourself like what you want to do in trust and safety, because if you've been following TSPA, you will know that like so many functions and so many different roles, and the field has grown so much. And so thinking through what it is that you want to do to sort of like target those skills. And I think the other thing also is that I think project management and collaboration will always and forever also be good skills to cultivate, because you will always need that in any TNS role. But yeah. Michelle, so you are a great leader now in trust and safety.
Nice of you to say, Dona.
What do you think makes you or makes a good TNS leader? Very quickly, I know like we're almost at time, and Charlotte is like about to kick me out,
my camera back on, but please do answer. Yes.
What do you think makes a good TNS leader now that you have this experience?
I think in 1 minute, the summary, my takeaway, I've had many incredible leaders of men, women, everyone, right? Every single, but I think what has always held them to this thing, trust and safety, we're dealing with risk situations. We're not all perfect. It's when someone makes a mistake to own up to it and to correct it and to not slaughter the person because of it, and to be a leader and to get in the trenches when you need to, step away when you should, but always be supportive of the people around you and help them further themselves. That to me, help them grow. That's part of a good leader. And I always had that. So that would be, I think, a good trust and safety leader. That's it.
I love it. Yeah, the work is hard enough. So leaders, please stand up for your teams. Thank you so much. I just love talking to you, Michelle. Obviously, I have not worked in TV, so I had no idea what I was doing, but we did it and it's over now. So pass it over to Charlotte.
I just absolutely echo. Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your story with us. And thank you, Dona, for facilitating as TSPA advisor. It is so meaningful to have you as our guinea pigs. So this is the first one. And I was joking actually before this event in the green room that like so many of us trust and safety professionals don't get a lot of practice on camera like this. So if there's like been a murder, we're in, right? Like we can handle it, let's go. But if we like have to talk on camera for 30 minutes, all of a sudden it's like, oh, hang on. Yeah. So thank you especially for doing this. I think this has been so interesting. It's so helpful. We've gotten some great community questions. Maybe we've learned that this needs to be longer than 30 minutes. We'll incorporate that. This is just a great way to kick off the series. So thank you so much, both of you, and especially Michelle for being our first one. We are planning the next installment of that Escalated Quickly on July 13th. So I hope we'll see a lot of you back here next month for a great conversation. And Michelle and Dona can be asking the questions then. They'll be in the chat. If you have been watching this thinking, this is the quality content that I'm here for on the internet, come on over and check us out. We're at tspa.org. Our community has all kinds of cool stuff going on. We have volunteers writing a free trust and safety curriculum. We have the Trust and Safety Library with all kinds of resources about the field. We have a newsletter. We got it all. So if you're a job seeker in particular, we have a jobs board. Actually, it might not be working today, ironically and sadly, but normally it does work. And it's a great place to find listings for jobs in trust and safety. We're going to be launching a section on the website for job seekers in the coming months, so be looking out for that. We are also going to start doing specific job seeker Q&As with our community starting in August. I believe Dona is going to be there for that first one as well. Dona's the real guinea pig here. She's always willing to try something new. There you go. But that's for a lot of the questions we're getting in the chat are things that we want to be able to spend specific time with you on, because you are these individuals looking for these jobs. And as the professional association, we want to be sure you get those jobs. So be looking for that in August. If you're already a trust and safety professional, I know a number of you are, you either are already a member, in which case, congrats, see you around, or you should become a member. We have a members only Slack space. We run all kinds of members only events. We're doing local meetups again. We have topical roundtables. You could be a guest on this fabulous new series that escalated quickly. You can join as an individual. You can have your company come alongside as a supporter. A lot of different options. Those are all information there on the website as well. Last update, we have a conference coming in the end of September. It's called Trustcon. It will be September 27th and 28th. It is both virtual and this year in Palo Alto, California. We're hoping to move it around every year because our community is global. So that conference should be too. Registration's opening in the next couple weeks, and maybe even the next few days, but we really want to be sure you're subscribed to the newsletter so you can get updates on when Reg opens, because we hope to see a lot of you there. So thank you again, Michelle, for your story. Thank you, Dona, for facilitating, and thank you all for being here. Be well and stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.